Welcome to your first INTA annual meeting. This video will be your guide to get the most out of your meeting experience. In addition to the video, we have prepared an annual meeting guide. You may use this guide to highlight programs, sessions, and events you won't want to miss. So what is the annual meeting? Well, it's the largest and most prestigious gathering of trademark professionals in the world. There are more than 8,000 attendees from more than 130 countries. It's also the largest selection of training, education, and training programs, educational sessions, workshops, industry breakouts, and table topics. INTA's annual meeting is also the best ever opportunity to network and conduct business with your peers.
The annual meeting is kind of an amazing thing. If you've ever been to a big, huge conference with lots and lots of people, you don't get the same feeling as you do at the INTA annual meeting, where it's much warmer. People are by and large happy to meet each other, happy to get to know people, whereas some big conferences, it's sort of not as social, not as fun, not as interesting.
A chance to do one of the great social jigsaws of the world, because you'll be getting dozens of invitations and you've got to try to slot them into this 6 days. And they're all the people who want exactly the same time on the same day. It's really interesting trying to plan it. And when you're actually there, you are moving from one meeting to another with people from so many different cultures. I've always actually thought that if the United Nations could behave quite as well as we do with each other at INTA, we would get rid of so many of the world's problems.
Well, it's big. 7,000 or 8,000 people, and it can be kind of intimidating. But it's also a lot of fun. In other sense, it's a great chance to meet people from all over the world.
For the corporate people, it's a great way for them to meet their foreign counsel. And for the attorneys in the law practices is to gain new relationships and learn about the laws in certain countries that they're dealing with.
You can make a lot of friends, and long-lasting friendships too.
It's great. It's such a great experience. It's daunting for your first time. It's daunting even after your first time. There's so many people there. There's so many opportunities. But what's really nice about it is through INTA you can get to know people, which actually helps you in your practice and in growing your practice and growing clients, and also in servicing clients. Being from South Africa, for me, it's like the one time you can actually go to one place and basically meet everyone you're dealing with. You correspond with people via email or letters, and you never really get a chance to see them face to face very often. But at INTA, basically anyone who's anyone in the trademark world is there.
You're finally here. Welcome to your first INTA annual meeting.
So embarrassing. My first was in Orlando, and I was due to go there with my boss. He pulled out 2 weeks beforehand, so I was sent off on my own. I walked into one of the first of the big receptions. And in those days, perhaps there was only 2,000 people in an aircraft hangar, 8,000 these days. I walked into the room, I went about 10 yards in, I looked around at this crowd of people, and they all knew each other, and I knew no one. And I turned around and I walked back out. I decided I had to get a strategy for this. So what I did is I actually got hold of one of the people I've been writing to at another firm. I said, I'm going to need some help. I know that you've done this a few times. Would you mind if we went to a couple of these receptions together? And she was really generous, terribly kind, and this happens again and again. You get lots of help from each other. And that way I sort of broke into how you deal with the social groupings. And now it's something I just desperately look forward to doing.
And I remember I stayed at a hotel that wasn't part of the main property, and I was going back and forth on this bus, and I met this guy from CBS television, and we had a great time learning it together. I'd never known him, and all the time I just kept meeting sort of one person here, one person there, and pretty soon you got familiar, and it really wasn't as bad.
It was a revelation. I never knew there were this many trademark attorneys around the world, and I didn't even think that it was healthy to have so many trademark attorneys all at once. And instead I found that there was a bunch of people at first intimidating, because they all looked to be perfectly at their own ease, to know the place, to know what to say, what to go, what to do. And I felt so awkward because it was my very first time. I didn't know anything. And instead, everyone was so nice. Everyone was so eager to help me, to give me advice. And so this is something that I learned right away, not to be scared. Go to people, introduce yourself, speak, ask questions, don't be shy.
My first time was actually quite special. I lived in Chicago at the time. I practiced in Chicago for 10 years, and it was my very first INTA. And I ended up meeting my husband at my first INTA, and it was his first INTA. He lived in South Africa. So we met, and a few months later we were engaged, and a few months later we were married, and I moved from Chicago to South Africa. That was 16 years ago, so my first INTA was very memorable.
A great kickoff to the meeting is the opening cocktail reception.
The reception is an art. I don't think that anyone, especially if it's the first time, is prepared to the sheer size of INTA reception.
I think it's great to meet people and get to know who they are, maybe where they work or that type of thing, but to immediately start to give them business cards and talk to them about getting you work, etc., I think just doesn't go anywhere because you don't know them yet, and the law is still very sort of personal. And if you work in-house like I do at a big company, we get approached a lot by people just trying to solicit work, and I don't usually follow those very much. I'm more inclined to hire somebody who I've gotten to know a little bit, and they took the time to get to know us a little bit.
I have found with attendance, time, and age and wisdom that you really have to pace yourself. All-nighters are fun the first couple of years, and then after that you kind of learn that it's a little bit hard to explain why you're so tired when you get back to work.
Number one, do show up to the cocktail party. Make sure that you're wearing your badge. If the cocktail party is outside for women, make sure you wear comfortable shoes and not high heels.
Well, don't drink too much.
Don't drink too much.
Don't drink too much. You want to be 100% there. You're there to develop business, make new contacts.
And you also don't want to be worried about maybe what you said that you maybe shouldn't have said.
So don't drink too much.
Don't be afraid of meeting people. Don't be afraid of giving your card out, but also don't just willy-nilly hand it out. You must really make a personal connection. That's the main thing. Don't be afraid of, at a cocktail party, going up to a group of people and saying hi, introduce yourself. People expect that. They've all been there, they've done that. So don't be afraid of just going out there and introducing yourself. But the idea is to try to make a real contact and not a superficial one. That's the key, I think.
Take advantage of the INTA hospitality area. Use the e-access pavilion. Take time to visit the exhibition hall. In the INTA brochure, you will find a list of all open networking opportunities. You need your badge for everything, including educational sessions, social functions, CLE credit and CPD points, exhibition hall, the hospitality area, INTA transportation. The badges also help other attendees identify you. What do you do with all those business cards?
It's amazing sometimes. Usually you get a business card because you've struck up a conversation with somebody on perhaps an issue.
Well, you know, I used to be really bad about it, but I think that every night you should go home and write yourself a note.
I take the business cards from the people that I met and I write little notes on the backs of them.
Something that will remind you about who this person was and what you talked about.
Something interesting about that individual. You know, a specific attorney handling, if it's a law firm, handling a specific client.
There's been plenty of times I've dug through cards to find someone that I remembered a conversation with, and then I reach out to them.
What I would do with them is enter them in my database and keep track of the people I meet and those with whom I think I can develop a relationship, a working relationship, maybe a friendship.
And so that way next year when you go to the meeting, maybe you can hook up with them and you have a new friend, and so that you start developing your own network. But don't just get the business cards and then throw them in the trash, because then there was no point doing that at all.
Oh, I have this selection of business cards, large bags full, and I put them into country order so that I will have US together, I'll have France together. And then when I actually need an associate for that territory, particularly if it's a more unusual one, I'll go to the cards. It will be the first place I will look to find somebody, because I know if they belong to INTA, they can be bothered to come to the events, there's somebody I'm going to try working with.
I think there's an art to that follow-up, and some people are very good at it, and I think the thing they do that's good is they might send a note saying, enjoyed meeting you and talking about X, because maybe I don't remember, you know, just to trigger my pet peeve. The number one don't just yank tons of names and addresses off the INTA mailing list.
The best emails are the targeted ones, the ones where you have a reason to send it other than just sending it out blindly because you happen to see that they were attending the meeting. That's a no-no.
So be genuine about it. Even if you only come away with maybe 10 new contacts, that's a success.
Beyond the great receptions, important meetings, and informational networking, be sure to take advantage of INTA's educational sessions. In your annual meeting guide, you will find some specifics on highlighted educational sessions. Take the time to plan ahead and fit education into your schedule. Remember, attorneys can earn valuable CLE credits in the United States or CPD points in the United Kingdom by attending INTA sessions. When you register, look for the annual meeting course materials to be available in March. These include all written course materials that can be downloaded before the meeting. You must have your badge scanned at the entrance of each session within the first 15 minutes of the session to receive credit. If you have additional questions regarding educational credits, please visit the CLE booth on site. Any final advice for someone attending the INTA annual meeting for the first time?
Let's go back to fundamentals. A good firm handshake and looking somebody in the eye is the most important thing to do. That first impression that you make goes a long way.
I have a friend whose theory is you alternate every drink with a glass of water and then you can survive for a long time at cocktail parties.
The badge is really your entree to a conversation with someone who doesn't know you well. I absolutely believe that everyone should wear their badge in a very visible location at all times when they're attending INTA events. And that's not just because you need the badge to get admitted. It's there for a reason. It's there to help people identify you at a glance. If they may only recognize your face, but they're not sure of your name. Everybody gets quite used to the INTA badge glance move, where you kind of dip down and look up, hopefully not at the same time as the other person, but you figure out who you're talking to very quickly.
So if a new attendee is confused about where they should be, what I would do is make sure that they get the daily news. That's always located at all the escalators. People hand that out. Also look for somebody who has a badge that maybe has a ribbon on their badge. They may be a committee member. Ask them.
I think that if you say that you met two people that you made inroads with, either just from a friendship perspective or who helped you learn more about INTA, so that maybe you'll get to meet them the next time around. It's not how many people you meet, it's who you meet and the connections that you make. I think it's more quality versus quantity.
Wear comfortable shoes. Bring a lot of business cards.
Have a schedule. Try and follow it on timing as best you can. Have a backup plan for when the schedule goes wrong, as undoubtedly it will. Make sure you've got contact details for somebody you're seeing at your next meeting when you know that you can't find a taxi for love nor money, and then you're going to be 10 minutes, 20 minutes late.
I've been working in trademarks for a long time, and I think if you can walk away from any program with one or two added tips or some validation that you're doing things right, I think then that you've had a good meeting. To the first-timers, you should be lucky to one day be an old-timer.
We hope you enjoyed this video. Again, please remember to review the annual meeting guide for more information. Shortly after the annual meeting, a portal will be available with information such as final course materials, presentations, session audios, speaker biographies, and the final program and attendee directory.